Hello, everybody. All right. Albeit, I think it was a bit quieter there, but you guys can hear me in the studio. But I'm hoping that those who might be in the on the YouTube will be able to hear me as well there. And yes, Metal, I got your message the other day about the like the upcoming streams and all that.
Yeah, it's an easy way for people to see when you're going live.
Yeah. Well, and I did modify that. So, and we got something else up from Rick now. Uh, well, hello everybody. We are some of our guests are having a little bit of technical difficulty here at the moment, so they're settling that in. Metal, how are you doing today?
Uh, Meh.
I can hear it in your voice. There's Rick.
Yes, here I am. To run out to not save the day.
All right. Well, if you guys haven't already, of course, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything that we talk about today grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Um, um, so, anyways, since we do have three people in here right now, what we'll do by starting off is go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves, do your little intros, share any links if you guys would like. Start off with you, Rick.
Okay, well, I am Rick Piper of Cross Comics, and I do comics and a whole bunch of other stuff, YouTube as well. So just if you haven't, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will get a link there in a second for that.
Okay. And as we for that, well, okay, so we're just waiting for you to put up the link. So, of course, you do have a second screen up for the YouTube screen, right, Rick?
Yeah.
And thank you guys for the likes and the shares, of course. All right. While you're getting your link up there,
Stuff
Rick.
together.
Metal, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, and share any links if you'd like.
Yeah. I'm the Metal, and I do stuff. Usually over here at xdynamuschaos.com. Hey, look, let me share it this time. Comics, pulps, all kinds of fun fictional things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there you go, guys. That's Metal's link there, and then of course now we have Rick's link as well. All right. Yeah, I guess it just feels like a sluggish Sunday, doesn't it?
It's Sunday, I guess.
A sluggish
Sunday, bloody Sunday.
Rick's tech is getting sluggish, and you're feeling sluggish. So, actually, there was a little bit of, I guess, of a personal interest type news story that came out earlier today. So I don't know if you guys had heard, but Ethan Van Sciver had a bit of a health scare.
I saw that.
No, I did not.
Well, apparently, because I just have, I saw, because I am kind of subscribed, even though I don't watch his channel as much. I was, he had a thing go up today where he says I'm okay, and so when I checked it out, apparently he had a bit of a health scare where, like, I guess it started yesterday. He started feeling some discomfort in his chest, and his left side felt numb.
Ooh, so not good.
worried enough to where he ended up going to the hospital. They did some tests on him and said he was fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's better to get checked out for something like that than not.
Well, yeah. I mean, he thought he might have been having like a heart attack or a stroke because mild, apparently it started last night and continued into this morning, and then he just finally said, "I'm going to the hospital." So apparently his wife is doing, and he was partly attributing it to a possibility of getting the vax. It's apparently they both got the vax. So
I should laugh, but
his horrible lifestyle. Although I mean, he has been trying to change it slowly over the years. Like he's been cutting back on like the pies and stuff, but just the numerous years of him being out of shape, even changing it around, you're still likely to have some problems for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all could probably stand to live healthier lives in some respects.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm fairly healthy overall, but I could probably kick the soda.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah, I'm trying to kick a lot of stuff at the moment. Although soda pretty much kicked, I do have it once in a while. Like this Friday, there was a art crawl downtown, and just for something easy to drink, it was cheap, and something to split with my mom. I got pop.
Yeah, no, I drink a lot of it, but it's
ever since I first drank soda when I was around 10, I've pretty much been hooked on it pretty much from day one. So.
Oh yeah, me too. But
and not only do I drink usually like one. I drink one energy drink a day too. So, but
the monster ones.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Actually, I proved to myself a few years ago, 10, 15 years ago now, that I could kick pop anytime I wanted. I went a year without pop. The only way that I had it is if I was at a wedding or something and they put ginger ale in the punch.
Yeah.
But other than that, I refused. I didn't have pop for a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just say screw. I mean, I like soda too much. I mean, basically most of my meals I have 1 or 2 glasses of soda with my meals. So, or like in my case, since I walk up to 7-Eleven, which is about 0.6 of a mile away from my house here, and walk back. So, and I'll usually, when I go up to 7-Eleven, I'll usually get like sometimes I'll go grab, whether it's a sandwich from their deli session or some pizza or whatever, and one of the 1 liter bottles of soda, like Pepsi usually. So
yeah.
And metal, I am still wanting to talk about Friday. It's just that I want to wait to see if we can get some more people in here before we get started, so more people can hear the things we talked about even beforehand. That I want the largest possible audience.
Yeah. Well, I know specifically with Ethan was feeling really bad because following him on Twitter too, he put up an update there, and I think Shane Davis was launching a book today, and he wanted to be there at like on the live stream during the launch, and he's like, it's like eating at him that he can't help promote his friend's book and stuff because he was in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, I think what a lot of people are attributing his latest situation to is stress. In fact, when he was doing that, when he was doing that stream earlier, some of his own people were saying, "Hey, go lie down, go get your rest, man. You don't need to be streaming right now." So
yeah. Also, something I did this week is I updated my website. So you can now get Canadian Shield 2 and Snowdrift 1 off of it. And you can get a bunch of T-shirts off of it too.
Well, Rick, if you want to share the link to your
website,
feel free to do so.
Yeah.
Actually,
And
I made some adjustments earlier to my YouTube channel here, as suggested to me by Metal here. Putting up. He was just talking about the upcoming live stream ones, but I also put the past live stream up on as well. So
yeah. Yeah, in your about section, you can put what you do for each day approximately. Like Fridays, the comics retrospect.
yeah,
Yeah, he could, but the fact that he
Yeah.
schedules all of his stuff ahead of time, which I do as well, YouTube actually gives you a section called upcoming live streams that you can put on the home part of your YouTube, which he just added.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
I've been using it for a while now on the Vomitorium.
Well, you didn't see it on. You probably haven't seen it on my channel yet because I just did it today. So you were to go.
No, I'm even thinking my channel. Um, okay, where do you put
It's
that?
when you're customizing the homepage of your channel, like channel customization.
Yeah, I think you have to go to like settings and then go down to like feature.
Branding.
It took me a bit to figure out as well, Rick. So,
Content.
yeah. So why don't you two talk amongst yourselves for a moment? Because I do need to step away for a moment.
Yeah, so
I
Rick,
just
if you
now
actually just
remember
go,
something first off, and then also. So I'll be right back.
yeah, if you just go to your channel, there's a button at the top that says Customize Channel.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
And
Which will bring you to the Creator Studio, but directly to the page where you customize the channel.
yeah.
And then it'll have your video spotlight section, which you can have for like those who are subscribed or those who are new. And then if you scroll down, it shows featured sections, right? And you can add a section, and one of the options is upcoming live streams.
Okay, you can only add 12. Maybe I'll take some stuff out of here.
No, you're already using all of it. You have too many playlists on, don't you?
Yeah, single playlist feature. Let's see. Remove. Remove. Remove that.
Periodically, I like to go in there and check to see if they gave us any new things to customize the homepage. It's just a habit I've been building up since like 2011.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, upcoming live streams. Okay. What do I that one's up there? That chill stream one. And that'll, as I make up, as I put stuff for upcoming or whatever. It'll
Yeah,
put
as you
stuff
schedule them, it'll just go in there automatically.
Okay.
And if you don't have anything, it just temporarily disappears until you add something again.
Okay. Subscriptions.
Like magic.
I think I'm gonna add the live now one. And I'm gonna add the past live streams.
Do you have a channel trailer?
Yeah, but I think I need to update it.
Probably.
Because it's like from a year ago, over a year ago.
Oh yeah, I used to have a channel trailer, but I think I made it back in like 2015. So I just have it like unlisted. And,
yeah.
My feature video now is the Lost the Will to Live, where Borovo was drowning.
Actually, I got to go through my featured videos. I have a bunch in there, I think, that are a little bit out of date. Like, I have my Who Let the Cyberfrog Out? Basically, my unboxing of Cyberfrog 1. So Metal, were you going to want to put an ad in the Canadian Shield one?
See, I've considered that. I don't think I have enough time to just make an ad right now.
Okay, because I could probably give you about a week if that would be enough. But if not,
I'm trying to think what I'm doing this week.
Because Sketchbook is finally done, the cover. He's just got to scan it and get it to me.
See, I'm already behind on everything, so if I decided to make an ad this week, that's just going to push everything else really far back.
Okay, well, I'll figure something else out then. I just thought I'd offer it.
Since, no, thank you for the offer, but I don't have the time.
Yeah. Well, I know what it feels like to get behind because, in doing that little special on Canadian comics history this week, I got a little behind on my news story, so really didn't get a chance to cover a whole lot of news. I did cover, of course, the Indie Comic Showcase on Thursday, and then before that, a couple of stories from like a week ago. Anime related stories like basically Crunchyroll and Netflix adding to their libraries. So that was pretty interesting. The Crunchyroll article actually took longer than I thought it would. So initially we were going to try to do 3 stories that night, but only ended up doing the 1 because the Crunchyroll story because it was just going off on all the titles that they were adding to their library, and then like sub-season 1 through episodes 1 through 13, 1 through 24, and then sub-season episodes 1 through 3. So, yeah. Actually, speaking of animes, one of the animes I recently started watching was Rising of the Shield Hero. Yeah, and I've been kind of interested in seeing that one, partly due to a lot of the controversy it stirred up when it premiered, like back in 2019, because that was the whole start of the Me Too and cancel culture stuff going on, and of course, in the very first episode of the series, you actually have somebody. You have one of the probably one of the female antagonists, basically accusing the protagonist of trying to assault her. So I don't know if you guys remember when all that was going down when it came out. And
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Let's see. Well, I started watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. Well, I had watched the first season.
Remember, there've been a few different versions.
Well, the first one. I want to before I go on to any of the other ones. Like I think I saw the first season. I might have seen some of the second, but so I want to go through it and then go on to the other ones.
Eventually, there are some I am going to eventually get around to. Like I'm gonna obviously Spy Family is one that I haven't watched yet. I do plan at some point down the road watching it because from what little I have seen of it, from covering some of the articles I've covered on it, it actually looks like a pretty cute anime. Even though it's a kind of a spy kind of Spy Family. It's about a guy who basically secret agent who puts a family together because it's what his assignment calls for, and in adopting a little girl who turns out to be a psychic and basically somebody who can read minds, basically, and the wife he takes on happens to be an assassin. So I mean, it's kind of a very interesting premise, and from what I've seen, particularly in how the little girl Anya interacts with people, it sounds kind of cute and sounds like that would be very enjoyable to watch. So
another anime I started watching on Tubi. I think it's Butlers versus Maids or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one sounds interesting too. I'll probably eventually get to.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit of a hair manga.
Huh. Any
Yeah,
animes of interest you've been watching lately, Middle?
the only thing I guess that was recent that I watched was that season 2 of Bastard finally came out, which is an
Huh.
old manga that finally got a proper adaptation for it instead of just like a one-off OVA.
Yeah. Um, let's see. And it just crossed my mind too. There was another anime that was, um, and I'm kind of looking. I mean, there are a few out there that have caught my attention. Obviously, that eventually gonna watch. But yeah. So,
So it's 20 after, Mike.
yeah, I was just thinking of that right now.
I will be watching the next half of Urusei Yatsura whenever it picks back up. It'll probably be soon, I think, in the fall season.
Oh, that newer one.
Yeah, because they did like the first half of the entire series already, so we're waiting on the second half to come out.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wish that I could find I kind of wish I could find the one from back in the 80s. That one looks nice to. I mean,
I think I still have it on one of my hard drives too, but I don't have the dubbed version because I hate the dubbed version of that show. I have the subbed because the original dub was god awful.
How was it god awful?
It was awful in the way a lot of dubs were back then. Like it wasn't even say like how a lot of dubs started getting a little better on actor quality into the late 80s and early 90s. It was more like how dubs were in the late 70s and early 80s. So a lot of the acting was like we just picked whoever we could find at the bottom of the barrel. Some of the characters would change voices like 3 or 4 times throughout the series. The audio mastering wasn't that good. It's one of those notoriously bad dubs before like studios started getting consistently better.
Like I grew up in a time period where we'd watch dub. Obviously the dubs were out of like Speed Racer, After Boy, Gigantor.
Battle of the Planets.
Well, Battle of the Planets. We know it as Battle of the Planets, but it was science.
Gatchaman.
Yeah, but now
Robotech.
I never thought like there was anything wrong with dub. Now maybe because for me, I'm just simply, I'm just listening to the dubs and granted, I mean, I think I can tell certain differences. Like, recently I watched an anime where initially they had the Singapore dub of it out. Initially, the Singapore English version out, and then they said they had to redo it with the Bang Zoom people. I just can't remember what it was, but the one I had available to watch was the Singapore version, and like I noticed there are people here, like people were saying the criticism there was that at times some of it was forced, which I think I can understand why people might say that. I didn't necessarily find it a problem, but I guess if between like the companies here in the States and like companies like in Singapore and all that, I guess I can tell, here things are a little more crisper when they dub it. It's
Listen, man, I can be honest about it.
There are certain companies that have people working in it that are just total jerks, as we've seen. So
I used to watch reruns of Speed Racer when I was a kid, but I can't even go back and watch Speed Racer anymore. I can only watch the original Japanese Go Go Go. Especially as somebody who does like voice acting and stuff, I go and look at that. I'm just like, I don't blame the voice actors. It's not their fault. It's the whole production team's fault.
So what's your criticism of that then? Just
Okay, so one of the criticisms, and this is where you actually have a defense of the term localization, right? Because a lot of what they tried to do with Speed Racer at first, before they actually started splicing and changing the episodes, is they were trying to match exactly what they were saying literally. And a lot of times it would end up having like shorter lines than what the character was actually saying. So things wouldn't actually fit the lip flaps. And they weren't even necessarily trying to match lip flaps so much in Speed Racer anyway. And you would just get like all of these mismatch, mispaced, sometimes just gaps in between things. Like it's just all horrible from a production end.
Yeah, so
Things we just don't
basically
do anymore.
so it was basically almost like the old even live action dubs and all that. You know, yeah. How are you? And then the lips would keep moving.
Yeah, and what you want a good balance. Like I will actually defend the idea of a localization team than just a translation, because there are some concepts that don't go one to one. And if you know somebody who's at least knows the culture of Japan, then they can find something that should match it, right? That should be the goal, is to find some English concept that matches the Japanese concept as best as possible without actually changing the meaning of what's going on. The problem with modern localizers, we jump into the opposite end where they just completely change the meaning of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I think I kind of understand what you're saying there, because I remember, I actually have the Yu Yu Hakusho box set, right? That's one of the few
I have it
series
too.
that I actually, put money down and actually bought. Okay, and I'll obviously the extras and commentaries and all that, and when I was reading some of the notes from the videos, how they'll give you a little note section on certain things.
Yeah,
they did talk about, there was, I guess, there was one of the earlier episodes. I think it was one of the episodes during Yusuke's training with Genkai. Well, not
with Genkai.
With Genkai yet. It was a Genkai tournament.
Okay.
And
The Genkai tournament.
Apparently, in the original Japanese version of it, they made reference to a Japanese cyclist, I guess. Right?
Yeah, that Americans just may not get whatsoever.
And so they had to switch it to, to maybe a more of a as you would say, a localized reference. So that part I understand. That part I can, definitely.
Yeah, and as long as it's like a matching reference, like if you said like Lance Armstrong or something, then it's like, okay, cyclist for cyclist or whatever, like something that people might actually know. Or there's certain other concepts like Yu Yu Hakusho is a great one because Togashi prefers the English dub over the Japanese, even though he wrote the manga in Japanese. And part of it is trash talk in Japanese is kind of weak. They don't have like swears and stuff in the same way that we do. A lot of theirs are like yelling obscene metaphors at each other, right? Or like simile. And the English dub really turned him into the trash talker that Togashi wanted him to. So they took the concept of what was going on and they localized it.
With Yusuke.
Yeah, Yusuke. Yeah.
Go ahead. I know I cut you off there, but
yeah. So he took Yusuke and turned him into the trash talker that Togashi always wanted Yusuke to be, because of the fact that like American English could let him do that.
Yeah, I mean, and Justin Cook was pretty good as Yusuke's voice there. That was pretty good. Yeah. Granted, Justin does more. He's more of a producer than anything else. But he's done three. Yusuke is probably one of his more well known. Also, was Fletcher Thompson in the first Full Metal Alchemist dub. Not Brotherhood, the one before that, and then also was Raditz. He was Goku's brother in Dragon Ball.
Raditz.
Okay. Yeah. So, So, anyways, so that gave us a good 5 to 10 minute talk time there. So that was good there. All right. Well, yeah, we're at the 25-minute mark here, so want to wait to see if we get more people in here, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on to, talking about stuff, right? So, Metal, you want to, kind of give your impressions and stuff on what? Well, actually, even before that, there's something, and why don't you? I want you to explain because I liked how you explained it. We're talking. One of the things we were talking about even before we started doing the readings was how comics were kind of formatted back in those days. How they were formatted as comic magazines. I was kind of making the. I was bringing up the fact that what I noticed in some of the early comics was your lead feature was always your first feature. Your secondary feature was your last feature, and then they had everything in between. So, Metal, why don't you give your explanation on that concept for Rick here?
Oh yeah, because I love magazines. I've always collected magazines. I think they're a great publication art form that is sadly dying out, and one of the few countries that even still does it in comic form is Japan, and they still kind of format things the same way because they borrowed it from our history. But comics come out of uh, kind of a joint industry, the newspaper and magazine industry, because any place that was printing newspapers, it was done on separate machines that were specifically for color, since usually you only ran color in like the Sunday paper if you did, and that was often for comics. But you had newspapers and magazines printed in the same printing houses. They're usually large factories for printing. Back in the old day, a lot of the press houses that printed would also be where the newspaper people, like the actual writers, operated. They would just be like on higher floors above the building, and you'd have the editors and the journalists and everybody up there doing their thing. But comics started becoming a pretty big thing. They kind of came out of specifically the dime magazine industry that would later become the pulp magazine industry. And they're like, okay, we could do the same thing with these dime mags and just start printing our comics in this form instead of them being stuck as simply strips in a newspaper. And since they came out of the magazine industry, they were formatted like magazines, where you'd have like a cover image, which would often be associated with your main feature, and there'd be like a title for it underneath the magazine title. And then you'd have like a second bigger title that would be like your second feature, so people know this is the other thing we should look for. And like you're saying, that would often be the back end. So these two, like a sandwich, these two bookends of the mag would be your two main features. Sometimes you'd have a third feature that would be right there in the middle of the magazine. So you kind of like could pace yourself. You knew, oh, I'm about halfway through the mag because here's the middle feature. And then you'd have like a bunch of smaller stuff that may not even be on the cover, shorts, or you would call them featurettes, right? Because they're smaller features that would be filling in.
Yeah, I mean, and in the comic book forms, you like I've often compared the comics, the early comics there from the golden age, to like highlights, just more with more of an emphasis on the comic aspect of it. Anything else?
Yeah, highlights is a good one. There was like another one that I said I grew up reading. They still did it in that magazine form. There was Boys Life magazine, which was specifically made for like the Boy and Cub Scouts, which would be mostly comics, but there'd be some other like articles and features in there in a magazine form. And these are some of the remnants of the older system, while most other comics decided to drop magazines and just go straight to feature books.
Yeah, and of course the thing is that like the example I would give was Action Comics, right? Because Superman was your lead feature, Zatara was your second feature, Tex Thompson was your third feature, which really, and now at that point the superhero comics were usually about 7 or 8 features a book. So you'd have Superman at the front end, Zatara at the back end, and then Tex Thompson right in the middle, and then you'd have other features. You kind of saw that similar, like when we went over Silver Streak Volume 1, Number 2 the other night. With 2 of the features that we covered, and we'll
And
more.
like I said, Jump Weekly still does this over in Japan. A bunch of their magazines do, but that's the one everybody knows is Jump Weekly, which is the Shonen Jump Weekly magazine. And that one will rotate their features because they've got usually there's the big three at any point in time. So the cover will either be Demon Slayer, My Hero, or Black Clover. Those are the big three right now. They'll rotate that. So if they're not the cover, they'll be one of the other three, like the middle or end. And then those three will basically subsidize all of the smaller manga that they're trying to sell people on.
Oh yeah.
Because
and you just reminded me of what you just reminded me what I was thinking about earlier. That's another series. I'd been watching it on Toonami, and I thought they were going to eventually bring it back the remainder of the series to Toonami, but doesn't look like that's happening.
Yeah, they do technically have a fourth feature because it's just a long running manga that everybody reads. And that's One Piece, and their people are waiting on the end. But they often don't actually have to make One Piece the cover because everybody knows it's going to be in the book.
Right. It's pretty much become synonymous with the book.
Yeah, and I guess Dragon Ball Super when that comes back. But I think both that and One Piece are currently on hiatus.
Yeah. Well, as I understand it from what I was reading too, I don't know. I do know that one of the current might be My Hero Academia. One of the current popular mangas right now is on hiatus because the writer author of the manga has been having some health issues, particularly with his hips or something like that. There have been like two or three that I've heard about that where. Yeah, there's one that it seems like it's a real popular one too. But it's like he has to stop for like months and even years at a time because health issues pop up.
That's probably Oda from One Piece. He's currently on a 2-month hiatus, mostly to get checkups and to make sure that he can finish it, right? So he's kind of like getting ahead of it this time, but he's had to take many hiatus, and that's why One Piece, as long as it is, because they're on like chapter almost 1200 now, it's been taking even longer than its length to finish because he's had to go on medical hiatuses and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it's not Oda though. It's somebody else. It's
I think the Demon Slayer guy also had to recently do it.
Yeah. If I remember the actual story, because there have been like 2 or 3 guys that I've heard where they've had to go on long hiatuses because, like the one guy, it's like he's having issues with his hips and back. He even in the article I read was actually talking about how because of issues with his hips, he even had trouble going to the bathroom, being able to actually go to the bathroom because of issues with his hips and all that over it. So let's see. I'm thinking My Hero, as I said, it's one of the popular ones. It's one of the popular ones that's
it's definitely not Demon Slayer because Demon Slayer is written by a chick, so you would know if it was her.
Yeah, but
she did have to go on hiatus not too long ago. I don't know. I haven't heard about it, but I could probably look into it later.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about it a while back, so but I know
it's just a common thing.
Yeah. Because of the workload that they put on themselves.
Yeah, it's the workload.
2 or 3 titles they're doing at the same time too.
But it's not just the workload; it's everything about their ethics. So, like a lot of if you're in like a salary position in Japan, right? A lot of companies will have like calisthenics in the morning, and they'll force you to take breaks and stuff. But a lot of these mangaka are basically, they're effectively private contractors, right? They have to meet a deadline and a certain volume, but they have to pace themselves. Like, it's all on them to schedule themselves and make sure that they do these things. So a lot of them, they'll just be like basically a NEET locked up in their room, until they finish the portion that they're doing, and then they'll send it out to their assistants or whatever, and they'll forget to go for like walks or to stretch or to do anything that will keep their body in a better condition. And it'll just be like weeks on end of them working in a hunched over position over a drawing table.
Yeah, I mean, even with as much sitting in front of my computer as I do, I get up at least a couple of times a day to walk up to the store to get me, get something to eat or something like that, or get my energy drink.
Yeah, most physicians will recommend what they call intermittent sitting. It's not bad to sit down as long as you don't sit down for more than like 45 minutes at a time. Even if you just like get up, stretch for a few minutes, walk to the fridge, come back, you're usually fine. You just don't want to be there for like hours and hours.
Granted, I have sat for, but something in me just, will always get me up, to do that. I just, just naturally can't sit still for too long.
Oh, same. I get restless. I could force myself to do it if I'm like working on something and I need to, or like if I'm streaming for a long period of time, I can force myself to sit down. I once did a 14-hour stream without moving, but like on the average day, if I'm not on camera, if I'm not trying to rush to get something done, I'm getting up like every 15 to 30 minutes. I can't sit still for that long.
All right. Well, with all that being, we got into a nice little side topic on mangakas and their health issues. That was a pretty interesting, albeit Rick didn't have much to say.
I remember that one article that you were reading. I don't know who it was about though, but I remember you reading it.
You remember you knew what I was talking about when we were talking about it, right?
Yeah, it was a couple months back here on your channel.
Yeah. So, all right. So now that we talked about all that, Meadow, you want to tell Rick and anybody else who might be listening or who might listen on the replay about like your thoughts on what we read and let me at least first off give people the basics here. So we went over Silver Streak Comics Volume 1, number 2 from Lev Gleason Publications. The features we went over were The Claw, The Wasp, and again, that was one of the other things I noted too, how some of the names are similar to characters that Marvel would use later on. They also had, Lev Gleason also had a character called Daredevil as well.
And Claw and Wasp.
Yeah. Duke, let's see. Duke, we were going to do 5 features, but we only ended up doing 4. But the Duke and Red Reed's Boy Magician. So with that, sorry, I kept cutting you off. Metal, go for it.
Oh, you don't have to say you cut me off. I haven't even started yet. I was actually laughing at the title when you told me what we were going to be reading, because when I heard Silver Streak, I thought of the 76 comedy movie with Richard Pryor and Gene. Why can't I remember his name right now? Wilder, yes. Willy Wonka. Which is a great movie. People should watch it if they haven't. But yeah, no, it was a pretty fun book. I didn't have most problems with almost any of the stories, except for some of the stuff they were trying to pass as science in the first one. So I didn't have problems with the Claw himself, because he's just like this magic entity. I like that, just magic, you can snap it away. But like just the weird thing they were trying to do with the ice was getting me. I'm like, that's not how endothermic reactions work.
A little more detail what they were doing with the ice.
Yeah, so like the Claw was trying to do this thing where he created a giant whirlpool and was trying to suck them down into the water. So I forget the name of the hero in the story. Was it like Jerry something?
Jack, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, some name that started with a J. But he's like, oh, don't worry. I've got these special light bulbs that I filled with a special gas, and if we put them inside the headlights of the car and point them straight down, because, you can change the direction headlights are pointing, we can freeze the water up in front of the car all the way down to the ocean floor, creating an ice bridge that we can drive on that's only the width of the car. And it was like, this is not how freezing works. This is not how any of this could work, like, at all. And then it got even worse, right? So it's like, later, it makes sense, but that's it. The part of it that makes sense doesn't make sense to their explanation. He decides to drive in like circles around the whirlpool to try to cut off the whirlpool and stop it from spinning. At least that's why he said they were driving around. But like, you could have just drove a straight line. The water would have been crashing into the ice to stop it from spinning. It worked out though, because it cut off their escape path to a degree, but that's not the reason he said they were making the circle. And I'm just like, this is hurting my head. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I like the Claw. The Claw's a cool villain. I like a story that kind of focuses on the villain too. The other stories were kind of fun. I liked the I liked Red.
Before we go on to the other stories, I do want to mention one thing about the Claw. Aside of course from the nails and the claws that came out of his nails. Aside from that, you got a villain here who is just so incredibly evil, right? That he intimidated Lev Gleason's version of Adolf Hitler.
Oh yeah, he did.
In the Lev Gleason world of comics and all that, he was the one who was intimidating. And mind you, they had a full on. I mean, they were not necessarily trying to hide the fact that this was Hitler they were portraying, and these were the Nazis they were portraying in this comic either. Okay, in all their evildom, as it were. Right, Metal?
I'm going to be a little fair here, though. I don't think it would actually be that hard to intimidate Adolf Hitler, right? Like, he was a charismatic speaker, but he was also an art student, and if some weird magical being that looks like a human-sized goblin showed up in front of him, he would probably wet himself.
Well, my only thing, and of course I didn't read it, but in thinking, how popular would Hitler have been known enough to even make somebody like him in the comic at this point? Because the Second World War is just starting, and there's probably been rumblings of what Adolf was doing.
Well, people may have heard of him. Grant, you may have a point there. He may not have been as widely known yet. But remember, at this point, he was Chancellor of Germany, so he would have had some name recognition just from that alone.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have known how he
level as you'd see today. Most people today, you say Biden, Trudeau. Let's see.
Yeah, but they're actually in power.
No, here. Let me give you the steel man here, because Mike, you bring this up a lot when we're talking about these old comics. This is at a time where like everybody in the entertainment industries were trying to get people rallied up for the war, because a lot of the people that were in the entertainment industry were themselves heavily Jewish, so they had like this incentive to go help the Jewish people over there. So it wasn't just in comics. If you were to go see like the world news at your local theater, it also would have been heavily tilted in that direction as well. Mm-hmm. The type of people that engaged in entertainment, which wasn't very wide, most people just read their newspaper. But if you engaged in entertainment, if you're reading comics, if you went to your local theater to catch cartoons or the news or whatever, you would know who he is, right? So it's all about the target audience and also what you're trying to push.
It's just because I know the time was not quite as today, where things like 2 seconds after they happen, it happens,
Right?
Yeah, like maybe your average person walking down the street wouldn't know, but this target audience by this point probably at least knew who he was and what was going on.
I guess that can make a little bit of sense to me.
Rick is known for picking apart some of the leaps of logic.
I know.
As well,
I know. I've been on enough streams with Rick. I know.
So, anyway, so continue
Well,
on.
Mike's meaning just in the stories themselves that we read.
Well,
Because the stories of that time, I have a lot of them.
Yeah, from my perspective, for me, I just like to see how they develop their worlds and what it might be like if we were to transport, were able to transport into their world per se. It's like one of the things I was even thinking about doing Friday morning. I ended up not doing it, but one of the things I was going to pitch the idea to is, what I was going to suggest to Metal and people in the viewing audience was, after we've read these
comics
features and stuff, after we've read them and you've gotten a good idea who these characters are, then try to see if you could come up with a story premise based on the characters that we now. You don't have to do all the like minor characters like the thugs and all that, but like the main characters.
No, this is easy.
That incorporates all of them in. That incorporates all of them into it. And
most of these old ones, they aren't a shared world. It's a bunch of different worlds in it, right? But honestly, this one, I'm going to say, whether they wanted to or not, was a shared world. We have to write a story about the true main character of this book, and it's a thug named Spike.
And you want to tell Rick why Spike?
Every single story had, except for like the first one, but like every story that involved a thug, one of the thugs or like the main thug, his name was like Spike, because it's like the most common name that you could think of for a thug, like the go-to. It's like even when they tried to name the bulldog in Tom and Jerry later, they're like, oh, what's a thuggish name for a dog? Spike, right? So it's like no matter what, every story has a thug named Spike in it. He's the true main character of the comic book that we read.
Yeah. Well, okay. My point though, and
Spike and his employers.
My point and suggestion, try to come up is, we know even DC and Marvel at the time were not necessarily a shared universe yet, but it's still fun to try to think of these as if they were being developed into a shared universe. And just how you might go about it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like we follow the perspective of Spike, right? Who's going on several different jobs, and every single time he tries to do anything with his really bad luck, instead of dealing with the cops specifically or just like somebody with a gun trying to protect their own health, he just keeps running into like vigilantes, detectives, and a boy with a genie until eventually the genie gives him a second chance. It's like, okay, man, I'm going to turn my life around. Well, actually, that wasn't Spike in that one. Spike helped the guy who got turned around. But still, we could frame it from this perspective. He just keeps running into like supernatural things. It's like, I need to stop this. I need to quit whatever I'm doing. Clearly, this is not working for me.
Yeah, well, speaking of Red Reed's boy magician right there, you want to tell Rick a little bit about that one?
Okay, so we start off following the story of Conan O'Brien when he's a little kid. And for some reason, Conan has this marble that allows him to summon a genie who's attached to the kid, because if somebody else comes across the marble, he's like, no, I can't let you have this. If you touch it, you become my master. I'm going to have to go give it back to Conan over here. And the boy he's just the sweetest boy in the world. This guy breaks into his house, tries to steal his stuff, and instead of punishing him, he's actually like, no, we can help him. We could turn his life around. Because I can trust this random adult that I've only met for the first time in my life. The genie was the smart one. He wanted to execute the man. And I'm on the genie side here. So they go to this judge, and little O'Brien here decides, hey, judge, watch these magic powers I have access to. If we give him a nice house for him and his family, he won't commit crimes again. And the judge is skeptical of this too, because the judge is smart. But he's like, okay, little kid, if you can actually prove me that these things are real, I'll listen to you, because who am I to argue with magic? And he does.
And how did they spell genie, by the way?
They dropped the E at the end. So it's the standard, like, Americanized English spelling of genie, except instead of, like, Genie. They just dropped the E, so it's Geni, and it's like Jenny, Janie. I have no idea what's going on with the publication here. But the judge refuses to argue with Magic, and the guy gets a new house and apparently a job, and hopefully he's not going to like slip back into bad habits or be like somebody who won the lottery who ends up blowing all their money and will have a stable life from here on out.
Yeah. Well, the last panel, you remember the last panel, Metal?
No, not off the top of my head.
The last panel was Red, aka as you call him, little Conan O'Brien, visiting the reformed criminal at the job at a company. He actually asked his father.
Okay, yeah, no, I remember that now too. Yeah, because it was like his dad's business or whatever where he got the job. But it's like that's soon. We have no idea. Like 5 years from now, if he would like slip back into bad habits or anything. So it's like we're just gonna have to take the story on its word right there.
Now, was the kid really named Conan O'Brien?
No, his name is Red Reeves. But if you look at his face, he literally just looks like a younger Conan O'Brien. Obviously not based off him, because Conan O'Brien probably wasn't even born yet, or if he was a small child. I don't think he's that old. But yeah, so he wasn't born yet. It just happens to look like Conan.
The story more or less took place in November of 1939, for all intents.
Yeah. I don't think Conan was probably born until like
the
early 60s.
It would be another 15, 20 years before Conan O'Brien would have been.
Yeah. Like this is a generation before him. It just happens to look like him because a lot of Irish people just look the same.
Yeah. Well, I obviously didn't think it was supposed to be based on him, but I thought if it was actually the character was named that, it would have been a weird coincidence.
No, he just has like the rounded jaw that people in the northern end of the Irish Islands have, and he's got like the hair flip and everything. Like you would, if you didn't tell somebody when this comic came out, and it's like somebody was just mimicking an older style, they literally would have thought this was somebody used Conan O'Brien as the base model for the character.
Intriguing.
So let's see. The next story we read was The Duke, which involved the kidnapping of a young woman.
And Spike was involved in this?
Yes, there was a Spike.
Spike being one of them. Full on saw Spike, one of the bad guys, kidnapping this woman, putting their hand over her mouth, gagging her, all that good stuff. Metal, you want to give your impressions on that one?
Yeah, so they kidnapped the chick at behest of what we find out later was a stalker who was like obsessed with her. And they drop her off at this house that they think is haunted because for some reason ghosts need rope to lower money to the people they're paying, and run off crazy because all thugs in these comics are just absolute imbeciles. And the Duke gets involved and he has to like solve this crime. So he ends up like tracking it back down to the house after a crazy car chase where he almost kills them by running into the people in the car. He ends up tracking her back down to the house that they left her at. And when they get in there, the ghost almost looks like reverse Batman because he's a guy in like a white sheet, but he's got like those pillowcase horns at the top of it. And he ends up fighting the guy who tries to burn the house down and them alive as he escapes. But they eventually catch him and put him back in the insane asylum or whatever he came from. It was a nice little action detective story. It's kind of basic but solid. I have no complaints about the story other than like criminals are stupid in every single story that these guys write.
Or as they said in the Batman mythos, they are a superstitious and cowardly lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, that might have been true at one point in time. Superstitious, sure. Cowardly, I don't think I would describe most criminals I've run into that way. I actually don't even know if that's true in Batman, because for some reason, criminals decide to bum rush the Batman all the time just to get hurt.
Yeah, that you would think if they knew his reputation, that they would, go
the other way, right? Like just drop their guns and leave.
Yeah, but Anyway, so and of course the last story was the Wasp.
Yes, the Wasp.
Did the Wasp shank?
Trying to remember this story.
So it was that memorable, eh?
Well, it was probably a little, it was the last story we read, and it was, and I was the one who read it. I mean, I think I did have you do the bad guy.
Yeah, that was the one with the professor, I think, right?
Professor,
and
right.
his friend, which was like Bill Barnes, I think was his like sidekick. It was kind of like the Watson to his Sherlock.
Right.
Yeah, I'm remembering it more now. I was just once I got the villain in my head, then I remembered the story. So the professors got kind of like a vendetta against the Wasp, and they're trying to get him. And the Wasp kind of knows this already, so they're kind of like feeding into the professor's plan, which is like a setup. So he lets Bill run into the setup, get captured, and he ends up taking out all of the professor's men in the background while the professor and Bill are talking to each other. And ends up rescuing Bill back out of there because they got enough of the plans to know what he's going to do. And they cut him off as they're about to do like this heist at a port, right? And they start feeding all the stuff they're stealing down to Bill, thinking it was their own men since they cut them off. And then there's this crazy boat chase where the professor is like, I don't care if our boat can't turn as fast as them. Chase them. And it just typical case of making villains greedy and stupid. They end up winning the boat chase by rocking their boat over and returning all the goods that they were going to steal.
Who are you guys? Who sent you? Well, I mean, you came here, buddy. Hey, Monkey,
Yeah.
you came here.
Who sent us? I don't know, but who sent you?
Yeah, this is the Mikestand, which is my well,
your show. Yeah.
So,
and we were just talking about some shows that comics that you read on Friday.
Right.
I guess Monkey D. Chomsky would just be if like Noam Chomsky ate a gum fruit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry I cut you off, but I saw the comment there. So
yeah, I was gonna say something about it.
We got some more comments.
Yeah, he said this channel just showed up in my recommended W2. I've never heard of you guys before. What the heck is going on?
Yo, YouTube's been doing that a lot lately. Some change to the algorithm where it'll just like randomly spit out like smaller channels with low view counts into your recommended feed.
Okay. Before you guys continue, let me finish with his comments here. Then I will answer his question. So, and then okay, see you guys. Embrace veganism and
anti-nihilism.
Anti-nihilism.
No, that's anti-natalism.
Okay.
And then Joshua's here now.
Which I'm going to refuse.
Oh boy. All right. Not all right. Well, if Monkey,
I will eat my steak and enjoy it.
Here, let me.
Me too.
Let me explain. So, this is my channel under my real name, Mike Walters. I do 6 nights a week where we cover what is traditionally considered neat. So that's like anime, cartoons, comics, manga, pro wrestling. Monday through Thursday, I do kind of a niche newscast kind of thing where I kind of read over articles from sites like Bounding into Comics, which are sites that focus on comics and anime and all that.
Thank you, Monkey.
On Fridays, I do a historical comic retrospect, usually with a co-host, usually one of these guys or some others, where we will go back, read old comics, we'll comment on them, do a little bit of everything with it. And then on Sundays is our panel show. We get together, talk, just have kind of a random talk about all things niche, like we're doing now. So that's essentially what it is. So
yes, we're nerds and we're proud of it.
Okay, I'll hit the sub because you guys seem bored. Seem based. I'd say so. Nerd. All right. So anyway, well, thank you for the subscription, and I hope to see you on here more. I think if you come around more, I think if you really are into some of the stuff we're talking about, you'll enjoy it. I think one of the things I try to do that's a little different from most people is I actually try to do. I try to focus more on the positive side of things instead of the negative. So, let's see. Base nerd alert. Okay. I'm out, though, seriously. Have a good one, guys. Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again. Anyways, all right. Sorry I had to cut you off again there, Metal. I was, obviously we had.
No, I think I kind of wrapped up anyway. At least my thoughts on it.
Well,
if you want to say
why
anything
don't you just
about that
wrap
one.
up again, because I don't know if I heard as much of it because of what was going on. So
I was saying is that they won the boat chase, their action encounter on the lake, or whatever it was, and returned the goods, and the professor got away avenging more revenge on the Wasp. That was basically it. I didn't think too much about that story. It was solid for another action
probably
detective
a pretty
type
for
thing.
that time period. It was a pretty baseline story. There wasn't aside from the Wasp being under a mask being what they called back then mystery men. That was the term they used for a lot of these masked vigilantes back then. But as I said,
you could tell that both of those were,
even though it wasn't technically a shared universe, it's still fun to think of what it would have been like if it was a shared universe. What would have been like if, let's say, some of the protagonists, Red Reeves, Duke, Waspel, and the guy from the Claw story all got together to fend off some of these guys or whatever. How that would have all looked. Would have been interesting to get into. But anyway.
What I was going to say is you could tell that these two, the first and end, were supposed to be the features anyway, because both of them had history up to that point, right? Like the Red Reeves, you didn't need to know anything about him before that story. Like that could have started there and nothing would have changed. Right. But both of these had some prior engagement. Like obviously even the Claw started out with a little recap of what the last time had finished doing. They had just escaped his island. And the Wasp, clearly the professor has a vendetta against him. So both of them have like this kind of serialized history already.
Yeah. But let me just check something real quick. I can probably find out. Oh, wait, what are they doing there?
I'll get it back in a second. I just want to grab a little something to drink.
Let's see. I'm just going back to see if I can find that guy's name from the first story, the hero in it, not the Claw, but Claw's adversary.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry Morris.
Oh, I was right when I guessed Jerry. Okay.
Jerry Morris, master chemist and adventurer.
I remembered there was a Jerry somewhere in that story, so that book. So I guess that was the story it was from.
Yeah. So, but overall, what would you say? Pretty fun set of stories there. Pretty good mix of stories.
It was definitely an improvement from the book about the centaur that we read.
Oh, Speed Centaur.
Yeah. This was definitely a much more fun book than that one.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know Rick just said So, and then the next time I have you on will be on September 22nd, and I've already looked ahead to that. I believe we'll be going over books that went on sale from Harvey in December of 1939, Speed Comics, and I think Champ Comics. So the one hero, Shock Gibson, kind of has a uniform that looks kind of like similar to the Golden Age Flashes.
Yeah. Crazy enough, due to my schedule making me too busy to be on the week before that, will end up putting me on a Shock Gibson story again.
Oh, you remember him from before?
Yes, yeah. Well, I think it might have been the last time that I was on before
if I
that.
decide to do that,
If you decide,
obviously I haven't figured out which, because that's still a few weeks ahead. I mean, basically, okay. So this Friday when I have RJ on, we're going to be finishing up November 1939 with Quality Comics, and of course, so, and it'll be kind of ironic because, of course, one of the stories we will likely read from that is The Clock, which is the character that RJ picked for his story for Out of Obscurity, his latest project. And I try to get him to talk. Was hoping he'd come on tonight so he could promote that tonight. We'll get him on tonight and next week for the panel shows, as well as Friday. Of course, he will be there Friday, regardless, because he's already put it on his own schedule. So, but yeah. So I guess he was just busy, as he's been lately.
Yeah. Well, if we are done with the wrap up, I will need to take no more than 5 minutes away, so I can go make a sandwich. I can eat it while we're on the show, but maybe I'll have a little more energy after that.
Okay.
Dinner finally came up.
Yeah, that's fine. So with that, let's see. Again, didn't really cover a whole lot news wise, so I wasn't sure what else we'd cover. If RJ was here, obviously it would have been, and if I had been able to get Chris and Diana here as well, but give them a chance to promote. I was even pushing that idea on Diana, like, hey, look, you come on, you can get a chance to promote your book too.
Yeah.
But then I also saw something on Facebook earlier. I guess she recently hurt herself or something like that.
I didn't notice that.
Well, apparently she's got some big brace on her leg that and even Terry had mentioned something on it there. So, yeah. So, so let's see, and then I have you next on the 1st, on September 1st.
Yeah.
Which we'll be doing covering Marvel comics from December 1939. It would be, I think, Marvel Mystery Comics number 3 and Daring Comics number 2, I believe. So we'll probably be reading some Namor again. I'll probably I don't know if I'm thinking of doing Namor and Kazar this time, because I did Namor and Human Torch last time. So.
Cool. Yeah, and I read the Namor story with you and Kazar. I mean, Human Torch.
Yeah.
So we get to read a Kazar one with you.
Yeah. So again, I'll figure out probably that week. What basically to cover December of 1939. We're going to be going over December 1939 after next week. After this week. Sorry, starting next Friday, the 25th, will be in December of 1939 for the next 13 weeks. DC, Marvel, Archie, Dell, Harvey, Centaur, Fawcett, Fiction House, Fox, Hillman, Novelty Press, Quality, and Standard. And of course, Fawcett Hillman, and Novelty all started up in December. Fawcett, of course, that's when we're going to read the first issue of Wiz. Now, the tricky thing about Wiz Comics, of course, was technically that was the first issue, but it was not indexed as the first issue. It was indexed second issue.
Yes, we get the real Captain Marvel.
The original, the Otto Binder and C.C. Beck version. Billy Batson. The original Captain Marvel, Ibis the Invincible.
And the real Captain Marvel.
Spy Smasher, yeah.
Is actually Captain Marvel in the Wiz 1 or not?
Yeah, he is. He's right on the cover, in fact.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
I'm sorry that I'm not going to be with you for that one.
Yeah.
Actually, also, I'm not going to be with you for the Archie one either. Although it's not technically Archie at that point, so you'll probably be reading another Shield story.
Yeah, probably. Well, let's see. So this Friday, of course, we're finishing up November 1939 with Quality Comics with
RJ.
With RJ with Feature Comics Volume 1, number 28, and Smash Comics. Can't remember that one off the top of my head. So that would be, of course, The Clock, Black X, and Hood, the Invisible Hood. And then next Friday, we start our coverage of December 1939. We'll be in DC with Apex.
And that's with the 25th of...
Yeah. And then when you come back, that'll be Marvel on September 1st. September 8th, that's when we have...
Archie?
Well, no. September 8th, I have Tim with me, and that one will be Archie. Blue Ribbon Comics. I don't know if the Shield was in that one, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I'll have to see.
Blue Ribbon was the one that had Orangutan, the dog hero. So actually, the Shield may have been. It might have been the other. Okay, maybe Pepcom. We'll see. Top notch when we get there. I don't know if the Shield was in Archie or if it was in Harvey. Actually,
no, the Shield is
Harvey. Harvey was the one where we got Speed, or not Speed. Shock.
Yeah.
So
the Shield is Archie Comics Archie Comics.
Oh, hey, Woody's here.
Yeah. Hail and a hearty handshake, says Woody.
I'm back.
I'm just going over like the next few weeks. Like after this week, when we get into December, we'll be going like 13 weeks covering of December of 1939.
It's the 13 weeks of December.
Yeah. We'll be going over December of 1939, and it will take to get through the number of companies that we'll be covering 13 companies over 13 weeks, basically. So DC starting next Friday with Apex will be my co-host there.
Well, two Fridays.
Well, yeah, next Friday, not this Friday, the following Friday.
Yeah, but next Friday was like 5 days away. Sounds like you're talking this one, the 18th.
No, because I usually differentiate it by saying this. Like if I'm talking about this Friday, that's the Friday coming up this week.
Yeah.
And then if I say next Friday, I mean the following week, the 25th. So August 25th, it'll be when we start our December of 1939 coverage. Apex is scheduled to be here as we go over comics that went on sale from DC in December of 1939. Then the following week, September 1st, Rick will be with me as we go over comics that went on sale from Marvel. Well, it wasn't known as Marvel yet. It was Timely, of course, but we're using the more well-known company name,
brand,
Marvel Comics. In November 1939 with Rick. On the 8th, Tim will be with me as we will be going over comics that went on sale in December 1939 from Archie Comics. and the Shield may be one of those that we may cover.
Yeah, although I won't be here to listen.
We don't have a co-host for that yet. The 15th will be covering Dell Comics. Now that one will be a little bit different because Dell is one of those companies that has mostly reprint materials in their comics. So with that stuff, it's just more random reads. That's why you don't see me doing them every week, because it's pretty much a lot of them tend to be slice of life humor stuff. So we'll be going over material from Speed Comics Volume 1 Super Comics Volume 1 number 20 and Crack-a-Jack Funnies Volume 1 number 20 that week. On the 20th, then on the 22nd, Metal, You're Back With Me, and at that point we'll be going over comics from Harvey Comics that went on sale in December 1939. That will be, Speed Comics and Champion Comics. I think Champion Comics number 3 and Speed number 5, maybe Champion number 4, something like that. So we'll figure all that out. And then the 29th, RJ will be back with me, and we'll be doing Centaur. We'll be looking over books that went on sale in December 1939 from Centaur, which will probably, and there's only a couple books. We might end up reading Speed Centaur in that one, or kind of the fair. Depends on which one I decide. But we'll wait and see when we get to that, when I nail it down. Then, and as we get into October, so let's see, 29 and 736 minus.
It'll be October 6th.
October 6th.
I'll probably end up taking that one.
Yeah. We'll see, because I still talking to RJ about, because I got to schedule him like months in advance. But,
yeah, well, you said he's doing the week before, so.
Yeah. So, Harvey Toon sounds a lot of fun.
Like a lot of fun.
Harvey Comics is what the characters that came from, some of the characters that came from Harvey Comics is what got you Harvey Toons.
Like Casper.
Yeah. He also said, just before you read that one, I grew up to be Baby Huey.
Yeah. Baby Huey, Casper, little Audrey, little Lulu.
So I was actually just thinking about that. With all these streaming services, and they're all like looking for content, and a lot of them are trying to like revival properties. I'm surprised Paramount doesn't try to take some of the old like Harvey characters and make modern stuff with it.
Actually,
Paramount Plus.
Actually, from what I've actually to a little bit, they actually have, I believe.
They're trying to bring Casper back again.
In recent years they did, but apparently, because in one of the history segments I did a while back, I think it was back in 2018. They came out with I guess it was online or something. Maybe Netflix was showing it or whatever. But there was a series called Harvey Girls, which was a modern interpretation in which little Audrey, little Lulu, and another little girl with Lulu in her name, or not Lulu, but little in her name, were like friends, and you'd watch them go around the neighborhood. Yeah, in fact, let me see if I can even bring that up, because I distinctly remember covering that as part of my history segment.
Well, that's cool.
Well, as long as it was decent, it's cool.
Yeah, the bars.
I didn't even know about it until I covered it. I didn't even know about it until I covered it for my history.
Yeah. This day in Nietzsche history.
Yeah. Harvey Girls Forever. Also, okay. So I got it right here. In fact,
like young girls is a very targetable audience. Like, I'm surprised there's not like a modern Wendy the Little Witch show going on or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was
by DreamWorks.
Yeah. So it was called Harvey Girls Forever, originally titled Harvey Street Kids. In its first season, then retroactively retitled, is an American animated comedy television series produced by Brendan Hay and Aliki Theo, Theo, Theophilopoulos for DreamWorks Animation Television. And it's based on
It's
comic
a
book characters.
Theophilopoulos. That's a Greek name.
Yeah, Theophilopoulos. Um, from Harvey Comics. It premiered June 29th, 2018 on Netflix and originally concluded on January 10th. The premise of the show was this: from long kickball games through the many flavors of ice cream to an impressive climbing tree, most days on Harvey Street feels like a weekend. Energetic Audrey, intelligent Dot, and kind-hearted Lot. So it was Audrey, little Audrey, little Dot, and little Lotta. Okay, so I thought little Lulu was in there as well, but I think she may still be. But let's see, are BFFs, short for Best Friends Forever, and the Street's Guardians. Then they try to keep Harvey Street great and start their wacky afternoon adventures. And then they had like four seasons that went from 2018 to 2020, 13 episodes each, where you had like about 2 episodes, for the most part, about 2 episodes per, or 2 segments per episode. You had Stephanie Lemelin as providing the voice of Audrey, Lauren Lapkus as Lotta, Kelly McCreary as Dot. Let's see, had Lucretia. Let's see, some of the other names you had in the show. And Richie Rich in it, voiced by Jack Quaid.
I love Richie Rich.
Yeah. Casper, voiced by Bobby Moynihan. D. Bradley Baker lent his voice. He's a pretty well-known voice actor here in the.
Oh, the Raccoons. That was a good show.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, even okay. So Joey McIntyre, Joey Fantome, Nick Lachey, and Sean Stockman as Crush for You, which I guess was their teen idol group of that. Yeah. So
what was it called? Harvey Girls Forever, or
yeah. Okay. So it was originally called Harvey Street Kids, and then retroactively called Harvey Girls Forever.
I'm just gonna see whether I can get some images just to see what it looked like. Oh,
what?
I know why it didn't last. I'm surprised it didn't. It's definitely
Looks
the Cal Art style.
It's not even just the style. It's one of the main characters.
Oh,
you're looking.
It's Lotta. It's the way Lotta looks.
There we.
Here. I'll enlarge it so we can all. I mean, if you want to share it, Rick, and then I can. You want to share it, and then I can just. Want to share that, and then I can just.
Yeah, well, I've got it up here for you now, I think.
Well, I don't see it in the shared section.
No. He just on his webcam. That's the way he does it.
Just click me.
Yeah. So that big blonde girl is Lotta.
So Audrey is probably the one on the right there.
And of course, they race swapped one of them.
Yeah.
That's Dot. Is the black girl.
Honestly, I like the original design of Audrey a lot better than that one, quite honestly.
Yeah, because they clearly just don't care about the characters.
The original Audrey from Harvey Tunes that I remember watching, even though they were already in syndicated when I was watching them in the 80s there, she looked cute. This girl...
they look all right. I can't say doesn't look bad as a cartoon, but it's not the Harvey characters.
Yeah, they should have just made original characters.
Well, you know what Hollywood's been doing with legacy characters for the longest time. They've been taking the intellectual property so they can basically push whatever agenda they want to down your throat. They think it's a lot easier to get people to accept an idea if, let's say, like, okay, I'll give you a prime example of this, right? You know how they made Jonathan Kent Superman and Tim Drake Robin gay recently, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to make it more acceptable if you have established characters saying how cool it is than if you're bringing in new characters.
Oh, actually, I think it's the opposite. I think they think it's a lot easier. But the problem is because they've been doing that, they've been getting a lot of pushback. So it's actually a lot harder. And these people are just stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just going over what their premise is, but that's generally the premise. And the reason, and, Lotta, if she played for the other side, people would say it was a fatphobic, insensitive name. Oh, boy.
Let's see, Leaky Theopolis, and then he said Little Lulu was the best one. She was funky before the Lotta.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's funny because Harvey Tunes, they did a lot of like Harvey Comics, Harvey Tunes, they did have a lot of characters with little, and you had little Audrey, little Lulu, little Lotta, little Dot,
Yeah.
Wendy the Little Witch.
Yeah.
Anyway,
who was a friend of Casper. There's two that shared a universe, Casper and Wendy.
Mm-hmm. Well, Harvey Tunes is kind of a shared universe because I think Harvey Tunes, much like Looney Tunes, they even, I think, did have an episode where they actually had like all the characters come on to celebrate somebody's like getting an award or something like that. Anyway, I need to step away again for a moment, guys. I'll be right back. You guys want to carry on the conversation while I'm gone?
We will do our best, I think. Or maybe we won't.
Yeah, don't speak for me.
Yeah.
I'm only just now getting energy. Ugh. Putting all this food in my stomach. It's like, obviously the food hasn't had time to give me energy, but I feel more energized knowing that I'm going to have energy from the food later. So it's like you get to tap into those reserves you couldn't before.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you know, I was going to be doing a Kickstarter for my revamped. I've decided not to because I'm going to be, in the next week or so, I'm going to be printing them up myself. So, I was going to be doing that for, funds to print up. But it's like, if I'm printing them up myself, I don't want to really charge anybody for it. And I'll just put it up on my website. They're revamped.
Revamp sounds like somebody was cured of vampirism, but then like spiraled back.
Okay, remastered there.
I thought we cured you. It's like, yeah, but I got bit again. How? This is the third time.
Yeah. Sounds like it could be a good series or something. The person who keeps getting bit by vampires. It's revamped. How will Lulu get bit by a vampire this time?
It's like that, in those Buffy type stories, it's like the one member of the crew that always gets changed into something. They were a werewolf last week, a vampire next week. It's like, how is your luck this bad? Like when Shaggy became a werewolf. Like, yes, of course, if anybody in the crew was going to become a werewolf, it was going to be Shaggy.
Yeah. Couldn't have it be anybody else. So I guess the next campaign I'm gearing up for then is my one, most likely in December. That I'll probably do December and January for Canadian Shield 3, Snowdrift 2, and Flame 1.
Actually, okay, so if we're going to take the idea of revamp and actually make it a hero instead of just a comedy side character, what we do is we have somebody who was bit by vampires. We cured him, but now the guy is stable, so a vampire influence doesn't have anything over him. So we transfuse him with vampire blood, and he becomes a character called Revamp who has total control over himself. So it's like Morbius, but cooler.
Yeah. So sounds like it could be the what's it? Did I say Canadian version for that of Morbius? Be positive or
Be
vampire?
positive.
All right, I'm back. um,
He's back. Uh-oh. He's back. After these
In black,
messages, he came
and
right.
he's fabulous.
yeah,
After these messages, he came right back.
yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's fun how we were able, even though we didn't have any specific articles that we're talking too much about tonight, it's kind of nice how we were able to jump off into some interesting topics of conversation there.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because as I think about like the Harvey Street kids right there, that I think, and Metal, you might know this as much if not more. Even in Japan, the theme of cute little girls doing cute little things is kind of a big thing, right?
Well, that's a big thing. It has been a big thing even in Western culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look even at them individually, not even when they're combined, but you've ever seen some of the older like little Audrey cartoons or little Lulu cartoons? They, there's something very
Well, I mean, it's a very similar premise to like Hello Kitty, which I'd hate to burst everybody's bubble, but Hello Kitty isn't actually a cat. She's a girl in a costume.
Let's see. So Joshua is asking, isn't that the name of one of the characters from the Snowflake and Safe Space team?
No, the Be Positive or something. Yeah, I think that's actually where I got my idea to do the vampire character from the New Warriors.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stupid names. What was the guy with the internet gas? That was like the lamest thing that they've ever come up with.
Yeah, so lame that we probably can't even remember it, right?
No, let's see. I'll try and figure it out here. Safe Space.
Introducing the New Warriors.
Warriors.
Screen Time. That was his name.
I was just about to.
And no, yours was better, Rick. His was B negative.
Oh yeah.
Right, because he was supposed to be emo and gothy. Which that was kind of his thing. It was like he was exposed to Morbius's blood as a child for some reason. I guess he had an emergency transfusion, and the only ones they could find was Morbius's of all people. Oh, and then there was Trailblaze, which was like their overweight Dora the Explorer who could pull anything out of her backpack. God, that was such dumb ideas.
Okay, you obviously found it. I sort of found it all without the names.
Yeah, I was just looking it up on, but I'm getting the wrong one. But
No, I found the original article on Marvel.com when they introduced the new Warriors, so it has all their like concept art and names and stuff attached to it.
yeah, I remember when Yellow Flash was covering it, he made a huge deal about Trailblaze right there.
Yeah. The sad part is like Screen Time's design isn't bad. It's just everything else about him and his powers is awful. Because he kind of reminds me of what was Richie's name? It was like Gear Shift or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Are you talking Gear?
Static. Was it just Gear?
Well, okay. Are you talking about when that one guy gave him superpowers, or are you talking about when he actually became a superhero?
When he actually became a superhero, all gadget based and stuff. It was just Gear. Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Gear's kind of like look to him. So like if they just made him a generalized like technopath or gadget based superhero, he could be fine. But like everything about the whole like I'm connected to the internet because of this internet gas, that's like the most almost like Silver Age explanation for how somebody got their powers. So
that might have even Golden Age.
Yeah, maybe even Golden Age.
Well,
but
yeah,
like
if you go back to Jay Garrick's origins, you know, he got his powers from breathing in hard water vapors, right?
Yeah. Well, he sounds like a second-rate cyborg.
Yeah, but like if they just made him like a technopath, then he could have been a cool character because he's got a neat design to him.
Yeah. Well, all of them, if they drew them up better, probably wouldn't be too bad in design.
No, I think Snowflake and Save Space or have a horrible design. There's some things I would do to tweak it aside from also changing their color palette. But their designs are just bad in general. They need tweaking. B negative. You could probably just draw him differently, and his design is all right. That one I'll probably also give a pass. Trailblaze also needs design.
I just think the overall concept of Safe Space and Snowflake is just kind of ridiculous to begin with.
Okay. Yeah, like the idea of a duo that their powers work off of each other is pretty good. But yeah, everything. Like how they executed, what their powers are, their relationship, their design, their names, the reason they made it, all of it's just like stupid.
Yeah. Well, the whole agenda pushing bit that that corporations and mainstream comic and mainstream entertainment's been doing is stupid.
Yeah.
That's why you got the rise in indie comics like you guys. Like that's why you got the
I will
rise in streaming services because nobody wants to. You know, people are telling the corporations and the mainstream media, "Hey, go stick it up where the sun don't shine, buddy."
Well, because I saw the interview with the guy who was heading this, so I'm going to defend this so we can properly criticize it. I don't think that these guys were made for an agenda. I believe they were made as the result that the agenda's already been there, right? So I don't think like these were put in here to push anything, but because that environment has been the environment for so long that you hired the type of people who would just naturally make characters like this, thinking that these are the type of things that kids want to read, right? Like it's we're a whole generation past where the previous corruption just becomes normal.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at Snowflake. She looks semi alright. The face is just wrong, but Safe Space really needs tweaking. That color for him is just wrong.
Well, I would tweak the colors. I would tweak the main outfit design. I would probably turn that top part into like an actual full vest. I think that would probably fly better. I would probably do some tweaking around like their kind of like sleeves, you know, like they're not the things that are part of the boots or the gloves. They've got like these kind of like bands underneath them, like these athletic wear. I would tweak those too because they just look really stupid the way they are right now. There's some things that could save these designs, but they're not good the way they are.
Yeah. They like some with tweaking, they could be salvaged.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it's good for a good start.
All right. Well, anyways, guys, we are getting down. We're out at the hour 45 mark. This has been I think this has been a pretty good show. We've had a pretty good set of conversations. We actually built some conversations off of what we were talking about. Got into some stuff we didn't necessarily need to rely on an article to keep focused or anything like that. We were able to have a good natural conversation, which I'm glad for. We hit upon some things. We got some newer information out. Like you guys learned about Harvey Kids Forever, Harvey Street Kids.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, again, the only reason I even knew about it was because it was part of one of my history segments. I just kind of remembered it. So,
you need to go back you need to go back and erase that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just about time for a history segment.
Yep, that actually, you're right.
Because it's this weekend in history.
Let me just going over stuff here.
We need to create him some sort of bumper for that. That's the right word, right? Metal bumper.
Yeah, bumper or stinger are the 2 words used for that these days.
13, 12.
Then he can go press play and the video comes up.
All right. So with all that being said, today is Sunday, August 13th, 2023. So let's take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. So first off, we're going to go back to yesterday. We're going to go back 90 years ago yesterday.
And I'm not sure whether I said this. Hello, Joshua. How are you today? This weekend.
Hail, Raven.
Yeah, I think we did mention Joshua earlier. I said hi to him earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But I forgot to say Hail, Raven. So I had to fix that.
You read his comments and all that. I just wasn't sure whether I said hi or not. So I was just making sure.
So on this date, 90 years ago today, or yesterday's date, 90 years ago.
That's a really long time ago.
Yesterday. Okay. On August 12th, 1933, Bosco the Musketeer from Leon Schlesinger Studios, basically a Looney Tunes cartoon, premiered in movie theaters on yesterday's date 90 years ago today. When Honey shows Bosco a book about the Three Musketeers, he reimagines the story with himself as the lead. So, on yesterday's date, 90 years ago, Bosco the Musketeer from Leon Schlesinger Studio, kind of the precursor to Warner Brothers Studios. Basically part of Bosco was actually the first big Looney Tunes star, even predating Porky Pig by a few years.
Cool. And Joshua, I didn't forget to say it. I just don't say it.
Heresy.
Hail, Raven. And then, okay. Anyways, with that, getting ready to move on. So that happened 90 years ago yesterday. Going back 25 years ago yesterday. So I pull it up here. 25 years ago yesterday, the 25th issue of Witchblade.
That's a good one. 25 years ago, the 25th issue.
Yeah, 25 years ago from the 25th issue of Witchblade from Image's Top Cow imprint. Went on sale 25 years ago yesterday. It was 24 pages. No title of the story, but it was written by David Wohl and Christina Z. Penciled by Michael Turner. Inked by Dewey Twong. Lettered by Dennis Heisler, and then Jonathan D. Smith did the coloring. So 25 years ago yesterday, 25th issue of Witchblade.
They couldn't have got 25 pages?
No. That was 40. A common practice for Witchblade, where it was just like, there's no issue title. It's just like, this is Witchblade number blank.
Yeah.
It would have been good if they could have had 25 pages. So issue, well, for
The
right
story was
now,
24 pages. The total book was like, I think they said 40 or something like that. But
yeah, I know.
anyways,
I'm just teasing. It would have been great for us because 25 years ago, 25th issue, 25 pages.
Yeah. So 10 years ago yesterday, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the Sleep Train Arena in Sacramento, California. It was the Go Home Raw before that year's SummerSlam, and on that um, on that show, the main event saw Rob Van Dam win a 20-man battle royal for the number one contendership for the WWE United States Championship coming up at the following Sunday's SummerSlam pre-show. Um, you had Fandango and R-Truth battling to a no contest on the night. The Usos defeating the Young Americans of Jack Swagger and Antonio Cesario. Kane defeating Titus O'Neil. Randy Orton defeated Damian Sandow. The show opened with Wade Barrett defeating Daniel Bryan with Brad Maddox as special referee. So the main event of the Go Home Raw before that year's SummerSlam was Rob Van Dam winning a 20-man battle royal to become the number one contender to the WWE United States Heavyweight Championship.
Cool.
And finally, on this date, today's date, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, Japanese voice actor Unsho Ichizuka passed away at the age of 67. He was, of course, the Japanese voice for a number of well-known characters, including the narrator and Professor Oak in the Pokemon series, Joseph Joestar and JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Stardust Chronicles, Von Hohenheim in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Zabuza, Mochi, and Naruto, Mr. Satan in the Dragon Ball franchise, and Jet Black in Cowboy Bebop. So on this date, 5 years ago today, Japanese voice actor Unsho Ichizuka passed away at the age of 67.
Yeah, I actually remember this happening. It was like a really big deal for a lot of people in my circles, especially people who, even if we do watch the dubs, we'll probably watch the subs first. So we're used to hearing those Japanese voices and like, oh man, he was so many important characters.
Yeah, well, the thing was too. People, you would argue that his death was a bit tragic because he died of a colon infection caused by an esophageal tumor.
Yes, and it seemed like if they had caught it a lot earlier, he wouldn't have had to have died.
Yeah, but anyway, so with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We had some real good conversations going on. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't even have to rely on an article tonight. I always have it ready just in case, but you know, this is how I usually would want the show to run. Is that maybe we do have some things to talk about, and then we can just branch off and just get into some, and at times even get into stuff that a lot of channels like this don't get into. Like we got into talking about Harvey Comics and some of the characters, right?
Yeah.
Good, bad, or
well, we almost did that a few weeks ago too. Before we got into some articles, we just got talking. I remember.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Well, that's how it happened on RJ's show too. Before I took over, it's like a lot of times he just let the conversation go. The only reason I started using articles because like when it's just you and me, Rick, we can't do this as much without at least one more person to kind of interject some stuff. You and I will run out of stuff to talk about pretty quickly.
Yes.
So. But anyways, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I hope everybody enjoyed. And of course, don't forget, we'll be back here tomorrow night with the Niche News, and then this Friday, of course, I'll have RJ Carter on as my co-host. We'll be finishing up our coverage of November of 1939, going over books that went on sale from Quality Comics. We'll be, of course, reading features like The Clock, Hooded Justice, and in Black X. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.